Hello and welcome to Maryville University's Women's Mentoring Kickoff. Thank you for being a mentor or a mentee. I am here with Teresa Olson, who chairs this committee, and we want to give you a warm welcome. My name is Dr. Leilani Carver-Madalon, and I'm in charge of our undergraduate programs in communication and our graduate programs in strategic communication and leadership. I am also a tenured associate professor in communication. I'd love to connect with you on LinkedIn, which you can see at the top of this page. One of the great things about mentorship is our ability to connect with one another, both mentors and mentees. We don't have to go about it alone. And the great thing about this is that we can connect with one another. I love this quotation. So at the beginning of this kickoff, we actually got together and we did networking, fun events, and we answered 3 questions in different breakout rooms with different people. And the 3 questions we answered were, number 1, if you could have a superpower, what would it be? What's your favorite quotation, inspirational phrase, power mantra? And the 3rd question was, what's one goal you hope to accomplish this semester? We didn't record the networking because we wanted to give people privacy and we wanted people to genuinely connect. So we're going to start with actually my presentation, which is empowering confidence for mentors and mentees. And so we're going to begin the presentation in the part that talks about mentorship, which is a confidence builder for both mentors and mentees. I hope this presentation actually inspires you to increase your confidence levels and inspires you to go after the dreams that you have to become your best self. Is that by being a mentor or a mentee, you're already building confidence. There is a lot of evidence out there suggesting that just by being a mentee, you are increasing your confidence by being supported, and mentors, by being looked up to as a role model, you're actually increasing your confidence. And I want to thank my mentees, Maggie and Layla, who I deeply appreciate, and I'm really excited to be their mentor this semester. So first thing to start off with, I would like you to take this quiz, and I'm going to drop my head down so you can actually get the URL. It's only about a 3 to 4 minute quiz, and it's based off this book called The Confidence Code. I know it's kind of hard to see with my, but I have it later in the presentation if you're interested in that book. But I would like you to type this URL in and take this brief quiz. It's learnconfidencecode.com/quiz. I'm going to pause just a few minutes for you to take that short quiz. Thank you. Teresa has put it in the URL in the chat to make it easier. Thank you, Teresa. As you finish the quiz, can you give me a thumbs up?
Leilani, you're muted.
Thank you. So I'll go back. Thank you. So what is confidence? Confidence is belief in ourselves, including our power and our abilities. We might say trusting ourselves. So one of my favorite things is in Mandarin Chinese. Confidence is trust your heart, or we might even say trusting our gut, right? And so trusting yourself. So how do we increase that trust in ourselves? So what does the research say? You know, as an academic, I'm always going to go to the research. So what does the research say that we can do to increase our confidence? It really says that we need to take strategic small risk taking. So small risks over time, over and over and over. And to make it a risk, it has to be outside of our comfort zone. So to be a true risk, so a small risk over time. And what that looks like is what I like to say is building a wall of confidence. So you take a small risk. Okay, if you're a student, let's say you start a conversation with the person next to you in class. That's a small risk outside of your comfort zone, perhaps. So you take that small risk and the person talks back to you and you have a nice conversation. That went well. That is a brick that you've put in your wall of confidence. That went well. So that will give you more confidence the next time you want to start a conversation with someone. That over time builds a wall of confidence. So taking those small risks over time. So you speak in front of someone or you speak at a conference, that goes well. That's a brick. Or it doesn't go well, but the world doesn't crumble. It may not go well. It's not always going to go well, but you survive. It goes fine, you know, or you deal with it and you learn to handle that. Even when it's not going well, that still builds your confidence over time, that you learn, I can handle this, I can survive. So building that wall of confidence, small risks over time, over and over and over as you build that wall of confidence. But it has to be outside of your comfort zone. So goal setting is an integral part of this. I've already asked you one goal that you want to complete this semester, but I want you to think about goal setting. What do you want to achieve in the next day, in the next month, in the next 6 months, in the next year? So really breaking those goals down. So if we have like a long-term goal, let's say of starting our own business or nonprofit, then you have to break it down, of course, into smaller chunks of how that would work. Like, what can I do today? What can I do in the next month, the 6 months, and the year? And all those small goals can lead to then growing that confidence level over time of how you reach that goal. For example, for me, one of my goals was to do a TED Talk. So how do you get to that big goal? Well, the first thing is I had to audition to get to the TED Talk. And so to audition, I then had to come up with an idea. I had to create a pitch. It had to be 3 minutes long. I had to figure out where I delivered the pitch, when the auditions would be, all of those little steps that go into breaking those into smaller groups. So that is one of the things you want to do. So I want to ask you today, what small dare can get you to the first goal that you have for yourself? And it often, we know, evidence says, if you write down your goals, you're much more likely to accomplish them. So, or type them. So what I would like you to do right now is I want you to pick one goal and so write down your goal or type it. And then what small dare can get you to that first goal? And I'd like you to write it down or type it up. And that's the first thing I'd like you to do. So we're building that wall of confidence. So one of the most interesting pieces of research I've read this year is that in interpersonal communication, and the source is below, sorry, that way, is that in interpersonal communication, it's more powerful to say your name and like a mantra. So we know how we talk to ourselves matters. But if you say your name, it's even more powerful. So talking to yourself in the third person is actually incredibly powerful. So for example, if you were to say to yourself, I am smart, it is much more powerful to say to yourself, Dr. Carver is smart. Well, I'm not going to say Dr. Carver. I'm going to say Leilani is smart, right? So when you are talking to yourself, talk to yourself actually in the third person is much more powerful. Isn't that interesting? It's because it gives you a little bit of, the research says it gives you a little bit of distance, and that actually has more of an influence on yourself and speaking to yourself and intrapersonal communication. So say your name to yourself. So when you're talking to yourself and you're saying, I am smart, you need to say, Leilani is smart, say your name. Haley is smart, Chantel is smart, Claudia is smart, Hannah is smart. You want to say your actual name. It's more powerful in your interpersonal communication because the way you speak to yourself matters. All of us have a little voice inside of our head, and that voice can be the cruelest voice ever. This is one of the biggest problems. If you listen to that voice, say like, for example, I just was talking with mute on. In my head, I could go, wow, Leilani, that was really stupid, okay? If I say that, that is a really powerful negative message. What I want to do is if that goes through my head, I want to correct it and go, wow, Leilani, everyone makes mistakes. That happens all the time. No big deal. That's what I want to correct, that voice inside your head. If you wouldn't say it to a friend, don't say it to yourself. We are incredibly cruel to ourselves, and we need to stop it because that influences how we see ourselves, which impacts our confidence, which impacts how others see us as well, because that's how we come out and face the world, and that's how others can see us too, because how we treat ourselves matters as well. It matters greatly. So the way you speak to yourself matters. Correct that voice. Say positive things to yourself. Say, I want you all right now to say your name is powerful. So you'd say, Leilani is powerful. Megan is powerful. Lisa is powerful. Shanti is powerful. Jackie is powerful. I want you to say that in your head because it is really important. Coming from the words of one of my heroes. If we don't like ourselves and say positive things to ourselves, it is very difficult to make a difference in the world. It is very difficult to be the person we want to be. It begins with communicating positively with ourselves. I love Maya Angelou. So let's talk about some other practical strategies that you can have to increase your confidence. And if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. So one of the things that I think becomes really important with confidence building, and this is something that I struggle with, is getting really clear about what you really want. In my head, I always have that song, tell me what you want, what you really, really want. And you need to do your research and prepare and then go for it and ask and do it. It's really important to get clear because I feel like I wasted a lot of time going after saying yes to everything and then not knowing and not focusing on what my strengths are and what I really cared about. And I feel like it's just now that I'm hitting a stride where I really can focus on what's important and where my strengths are.
So get clear about what do you really want? Where can you really make an impact? And do your research and then prepare and go for it and ask. Asking others to help is really important part of this. I also love Brene Brown, Dr. Brene Brown. If you're not familiar with her work, she has got a great book called Daring Greatly and Dare to Lead. She studies vulnerability and she also studies shame. And one of the things that you have to remember is that there are always people that are not going to like you, and that's okay. Especially if you go online. People are incredibly cruel. We find the research says that people are crueler, that's a word, more cruel online than they are face-to-face. They say things online that they would never say face-to-face. People are incredibly mean. If you should never read the comments, if you ever post anything in a public, or if you ever put your speech out online, people can be incredibly devastating. Especially, we found out they're even more cruel to women than they are to men, which is an interesting, or people who identify as women than people who identify as men. And so it's incredibly problematic. So you do not have to win everyone over. And that is not the goal. So when you go after what you want, you need to remember that your worthiness is not dependent on how some of those haters treat you. That's them and about their issues. Do not try to win over haters. Ignore them, shut them down if you can, report them if so. Online bullying is a real big problem, and your worthiness is not tied to that. I saw this on Pinterest the other day. It reminded me of, I have a 4-year-old daughter. She has an immense amount of confidence. And you did too when you were younger. You had an immense, what we find is about age, it starts about age 9. 10 is where it really starts dropping. 11, it plummets in people who identify as women. We need to gain back that confidence. You ask my daughter, can you sing? Yes, I'm a great singer. Can you dance? Yes, I'm an amazing dancer. She doesn't even need music to dance. We need to get back to that level of confidence where we know our worth and our value and have no doubt in our value. And I love that idea of your authentic voice. You know, you are a unique person and you offer your voice. And so that's one of the reasons I really like this quote. So let's talk about some tactics, some more practical tactics in our last few minutes. So 60 to 90% of all communication is nonverbal. There's debate among academics about how much that percentage is, but it's a lot. So one of the things we want to do is really inhale confidence and exhale doubt. Like, people can tell when you doubt yourself. You really want to show that in your body that you're inhaling that confidence, exhaling doubt. Eye contact is incredibly important. So in our culture, this is culturally based. I want to note, American culture is very much eye contact means respect. So you want to have sustained eye contact that shows you're confident, credible, and trustworthy. I always note with younger populations, especially, you want to be careful with technology. Phones can be a problem where people are looking down and not making eye contact. That can show like maybe that you're not, especially if you're hunched over, that can often convey that you're not as confident. You want to have at least, when speaking, 60% eye contact with your audience, 90% when you're listening. When speaking to a group, you can do it in thirds, especially if it's a large group, and you want to focus on decision makers or whoever's the power holder. That's who you want to make the most eye contact with. Never look at the floor, don't look at the ceiling, and you never want to read. And don't look at people who aren't listening. That'll distract you. Always avoid that. So things to avoid with body language. This is always an important thing. You don't want to slump. You don't want to lean, especially leaning back conveys you're not interested. You don't want to cross your arms. I had a student, he kept going on these interviews and he'd make it to the final 3 and then not get it. And I was like, you're doing something, because he was an amazing student. I thought, what are you doing? Something's happening. He was sweating. And so he was crossing his arms so he wouldn't show like sweat stains. And what people thought is that he wasn't really interested in the job. So I was like, can you wear some kind of jacket? And so we did on the next interview, and he got the job. Doing this, crossing your arms in front of you, conveys basically stay away. Like, it's kind of like doing this. It's like stay away. It's a motion that you don't want to be. So I'm going the wrong way. To do. Okay, you want to have good posture, signals energy, confidence. Leaning forward signals interest. If you're at an interview or any kind of situation where you want someone to show you care, leaning forward a little bit conveys energy and signals you're open and interested. You want to use open palms. You'll see when I'm speaking, I'm flashing my palms at you all the time. This is because this is like goes back to your amygdala. I hope I'm saying that right. My health science people. It's your ancient brain. It basically shows that I am not holding a weapon. I am safe. I have nothing to hide. Big gestures. People who identify as women tend to gesture very small. We tend to be tight and here. You want to gesture bigger. That actually conveys more confidence. Don't get wild. Don't be like flailing, but you want to gesture bigger. Think about gesturing bigger when you are in a place where you want to show more confidence. Eyebrow flash. This one's fun. So when you first meet people, especially with masks on, this is very, very helpful. What you do, an eyebrow flash is actually like 1/60th of a second. You raise your eyebrows. So it kind of looks like this. Hi, so nice to meet you. Hi, so nice to meet you. Hi. So it conveys warmth. It calls attention to the eyes, increases warmth and likability. If you were here in the room, I would have you all eyebrow flash each other. I'd like you to look at yourself right now if you have a mirror nearby and try practicing it. It'll make you smile if nothing else. So other things to do, of course, walk confidently when you're entering a room. Welcome everyone as if you're a host. These are often things that help. For networking, you want to point your toes and torso to the person you want to connect with most. And you can often tell if people are wanting to connect with you if their toes and torso are pointed at you. If they're pointed away or at the exit, they may want to leave. So always pay attention to where people's toes and torso are. Power posing, it's kind of hard to see. Amy Cuddy is a scholar. She actually wrote a book called Presence. She had power posing, which is like you can do the Wonder Woman. You can also do this one where you stand and put your hands in the air. She actually received a huge amount of hate from hers, and then she came back and rebutted. So for those of you that well, she's not a legitimate source. She actually is. I have some documentation if you're interested in that. You should power pose before you're in an evaluative situation, which basically is 2 minutes before you go into an interview, before you give a speech. I always do this before I speak. 2 minutes. It conveys, basically it's interpersonal communication again, talking to yourself, that you are confident and powerful. So do this 2 minutes, I call it the Wonder Woman. She does too, before you go into an evaluative situation. I'll be posting this link. You can't really see it, I apologize. Posting the link to her TED Talk so that you can watch that at a later point. So think about things like posture, power pose. Oh, a couple of other things that I've learned recently. Make sure your head is straight. If you tilt your head, especially if you do this a lot in meetings, this is a very submissive pose and it is not powerful. Make sure you keep your head straight. Make sure to use lots of eye contact, the eyebrow flash, and we're not handshaking a lot right now, but if we go back to handshakes, it's very powerful to initiate a handshake. So if we could, I would say practice. At home right now, I want you to try to make sure, check yourself. Are you slumping? Are you leaning? Make sure that you right now are conveying a powerful posture. So confidence in your mind. You want to make sure you're eliminating that self-talk, that negative. If you wouldn't say it to a friend, don't say it to yourself. Increase positive self-talk. You can create a prayer, a mantra, or a motto. I always create one a year. Last year was Leilani is fierce. And I say it to myself before entering situations. This year, I'm still trying to figure out what I've had. Leilani is love, Leilani is peace. Anyway, you pick your own mantra, whatever works for you. The other thing is to make sure to have a learning mindset, to strive to learn and grow. Avoid perfectionism. One of the biggest problems is that people will play small and not go after what they want because they don't want to make mistakes. They don't want to fail. Well, guess what? If you want to go after the life you want, you're going to have to fail sometimes. It's part of it. You're going to make mistakes. You know what? Everyone makes mistakes. It's okay to be human. It's okay to be you. And to be something great, you're going to have to do that. So don't be perfect. We need to shun perfectionism. We need to actually go for excellence instead. Try to be excellent and try to learn and grow. Remember, Dr. John Gottman says this: for every one negative thing you say to yourself or another, this also goes for partners, this also goes for friends, you need to say 5 positives to equal it out. This is for every communicative message. For every one negative, you have to have 5 positives just to make it even. That's not to make it better. That's just to make it even. So also, you want to stop hedging. Like, I know this is a dumb idea, but don't say that. Or, I'm really sorry to bring this up. Don't say that. If it's a bad idea, don't say it. Do not hedge. Just state your ideas. Or also eliminating things like, I believe that. Just state what you're saying. Stop hedging as a protective mechanism. Don't apologize. Say, excuse me, unless you really need to apologize. If you need to apologize, please do so. But if not, just say, excuse me. There's also a great tech hack from Gmail Chrome plugin. It's called Just Not Sorry. It's free. And what it'll do is look for hedging and apologizing and all those passive terms that need to be eliminated to make you more powerful. It's free, it highlights them, lets you choose whether or not to delete them or not. And then your voice. So things you can do with your voice: lower your vocal register a little bit. Don't do upspeak where everything sounds like a question. Try not to talk like that because that reduces your power. You also want to try to reduce vocalized pauses, things like or Singing your presentation actually before giving it can be very powerful. And if you're using technical jargon appropriately, please use it as long as your audience understands it. Finally, if you don't know, be honest and just tell people you'll get back to them. Never lie. I love this quotation by Mother Teresa. Okay. So the final thing is like confidence in your spirit. Go on adventures that light up your soul. What ignites you, especially right now when we're coming, well, I don't know if we're coming out of COVID or not, but we've been dealing with COVID for so long, and there's a lot of burnout and there's a lot of strain and a lot of, working 24 hours like we've heard. The other thing is to have soul friends that really nurture your soul and nurture those friendships, nurture our spirit, whatever it is that it is. I've been starting to take my morning coffee outside in the mornings now that it's not 8,000 degrees. Well, at least not most of the time. And just being in nature, we know that nature actually increases your happiness levels. And spend time with your mentor or mentee. Like spending time with others is another way that really increases, our confidence and can also increase our happiness levels as well. Our Madam Vice President, which I love saying that, has great advice. You are powerful and your voice matters. I want you to hear that today. You are powerful and your voice matters. This is important. Your voice matters. And you're more powerful than you know. We also need to encourage one another. And that's what I want you to remember. As mentors and mentees, we need to encourage each other. So remember, some of the things that can discourage are heavy social media use. If you are using social media more than 3 hours a day, you are considered a heavy user of social media. And that increases things like suicide, depression, anxiety, all of those things go up if you're using more than 3 hours a day. Reduce social media use. Social comparison is one of the biggest problems. Looking at other people's lives, especially if you're looking at social media, which tends to be what we call the highlight reel, like only the best things. Comparing yourself to others, you don't know the reality of their situation. You often don't see the negative. You often just see the positive. So comparing yourself to others is nobody wins. And people who are just mean, stay away from them. Try to avoid people who are not kind. We need to be kind. Sometimes we're afraid. Just because we're afraid doesn't mean we don't do it. And this is one of my favorite quotations. All the things that I've done, getting a PhD, starting a job as a professor, teaching, getting up in front of people and speaking, most of the time I'm scared, but I do it anyway. And it's moving in spite of fear, and doing the things we want to do and pursuing. This is a poem that I like. A lot of times there's pressure on us to look a certain way or be a certain way. But that's not what's important. What's really important is that we be our authentic selves and we be our own definition of amazing. I'll let you read it. So be your own definition of amazing. This is me. I'd love to connect with you on LinkedIn. And if you have any questions, we are basically out of time, but I would love to answer them. And I am here. I know many of you have to go. I'd love to answer your questions. And if not, if you have a question, you can email me too. My email I'll put in the chat and I can get back to you, but it's been a pleasure. Go with confidence. You are more powerful than you know. Anybody have any questions?
And the questions can be about the presentation or about the mentor program in general.
Leilani, I had a question about the, a few slides back, you made reference to like hedging, and there was a resource there, but I was a little confused as you mentioned that it would highlight where you do this, but is this like copy and pasting into a browser, or is it?
Oh, great question. So it's actually for your email.
Okay.
And so what it does, it's on like Gmail.
Mm-hmm.
So it will highlight, what it does is it literally highlights any passive phrasing. And so then you can decide if you want to delete it. So it's what is it called?
Kind of like a spin on Grammarly.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
And it just highlights where you're using passive voice.
Mm-hmm.
We are planning on sending out a recording of the presentation part of it, so you'll be able to see it again.
I know I went really fast.
No, it's okay. I just wasn't sure how the software actually worked and to what you used it on, whether it was papers, like submitting papers or emails or those kind of things, or both.
And actually Grammarly does this as well. They tend to highlight that hedging as well. And so Grammarly does a really good job too. Thank you for asking that.
Yeah. Thank you for
clarifying.
sharing it.
Other questions?
Well, then I think we can conclude. Great job, Leilani.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry I went so fast.
No, I'm sorry.
Yeah, don't apologize.
Thank you, Tracy. You're so right.
It was wonderful. Thank you so
We're
much.
always still learning. Oh, that's great. Well, have a great day, everyone. Take care.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.